Hi everybody, I hope you're doing well. It's Tim Ard here. Welcome to Thursday Night Saws. And along the Forest Apps Road, we're glad to be here. We're in Lawrenceville, Georgia this week. We're working with the Department of Transportation here. And we're having a super time. Weather's been really good. We've had one large group on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday. Today we had a smaller group out in the trees, and tomorrow one more group, and we'll be headed home. But it's been a fun week. We got back from Florida on Saturday night late. We had a super day in Brooksville, Florida, with Amsler Saw on Saturday. We had 38 people attending the workshop, and we had about 3 hours, I guess, presentation, and then went over and we took down a big dead pine tree. Got the video up on it, I think, already. And then we got to run the new Husqvarna 592 XP with a 28-inch bar on it, and it went very well. It's the first time I'd been able to use one, so I was very pleased. Hey GTB, hope you're doing well down under there. And we hopefully have some pretty decent internet here tonight, and I also found some different settings on the OBS to be able to hopefully get a little bit better transmission, a little better flow. So finally starting to figure some of this stuff out, maybe. But anyhow, it is a great time to be back and really being able to get this thing set up and hopefully chat with some today. So all good down under, huh? Bradley's on the Catbird Hill. Good evening. From southeastern Pennsylvania. Yeah, just Laura's talking today. We're going to be up in the Alleghenies coming up, I think, next month or two. Going to be in Pennsylvania, working up that way. Not sure on the exact dates, but we're doing a session with one of the, I think a construction company up there. So maybe Laura can let us know when that is and where it is. Hi Aaron, how are you tonight? Hope you're doing well. And was it you that was telling me you got the 592 XP? Somebody was telling me the other night that said they had gotten theirs in, so I didn't know with one of y'all or what. But I was really impressed. Steve with Husqvarna was there for the saw days. Amsler has a huge get together every year, kind of a customer appreciation, and we've had as many as 75, 80 people there. And weather was kind of looking a little bit rainy, so I think it kind of dropped down a little bit this year. But I had 38, and Steve was there, Husqvarna, and had the tools, and I'd been trying to get a hold of one to try it out a little bit. And we had a pretty good sized dead pine tree to take down, so I got to fell that with it, and then bucked up some stuff, so it went really good. So you hadn't got your saw yet, Aaron, huh? So let's see. You'll have to take a trip down to Longwood Gardens, where I did all my horticulture and landscape training. So that's where's Longwood Gardens located, Bradley's? And let's see, cold here in Oklahoma. It's cold all the way up through there, but it's been it's 57, I think, going to be here tonight, around Atlanta, and it got up into the middle 70s or so today. Florida was 81, 84 degrees last week. I like the melted, starting off the first few days of warm weather training. Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, March. Okay, we're going to be at Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, March 15th through the 18th. And I don't know. Laura's got the information who it is. I mean, it's not really open to the public on it. It's a city or town, or I think it was some kind of construction division or something. Laura could probably tell us on that. But so you're going to try to order the 592 tomorrow, Aaron. 32-inch Tough Light. That 28 that I used Saturday was the Tough Light bar, and I tell you, it was you could pick up. I don't know what the total weight on it. I didn't even look at the specs on the saw, but as far as weight wise goes, but you could, with that 28-inch Tough Light on there, you could pick it up on the front handle, and everything was completely balanced on it. And I imagine it'll still balance out with a 32 very well. But I mean, that thing was absolutely amazing. 45 minutes southwest of Philadelphia. Well, I don't know exactly what part. Laura's got the city and stuff. I don't have it in here right now. But I don't think it's too close to Philadelphia. I think it's up in the hills somewhere. But all the sound and video coming across good tonight, folks? I hope it is. Like I said, we got some things kind of set up a little bit differently, and got a fairly decent internet here tonight, I think. Got some 5G on the old phone, so we're going to put it on the hotspot tonight. Would there be too much flex with the 32-inch bar? I don't think so. It seems that the the light bars on the Husqvarna bars are pretty rigid. I haven't noticed any flex. I get to 24. Use the 28. I've got a 24 on my 07 on my 576, and I used that 28 Saturday, and it's very rigid bar. I mean, I was well pleased how it handled. You know, I run 20-inch most of the time on most of my training saws, and so I was well pleased with how I was able to match up cuts and everything with the long bar. And it really on the handle positions and the bar length on the 28, and I'm 6'1", and it worked really good on brush and limbing, so lengthwise. But 32, I don't think you'll have too much trouble with flex on it. So 28 doesn't, so I don't think that's going to make much difference there. We're going to be in Allison Park, Pennsylvania, in area North Park Lodge. I guess it's a grounds maintenance. That's what it is. So that's where we're going to be, Bradley. So if you know where that is, I don't know exactly. Yeah, I don't know exactly where that comes out to. Great, GTB. Thanks. I can always count on you. Tell me whether I'm too loud, too soft, or all fuzzy. So I appreciate that. Yeah, the Husqvarna Tough Lights are made by Sujihara, so they've been around a while as far as that goes. As far as Sujihara bars, it's a very good metal on it. Then just the inserts that they have placed in them, and I don't know when Sujihara come out with the actual lightweight inserts, but I think it's been several years now. Oregon had some of the first ones, and then Steel has messed with some of them, and then also Sujihara came out, and so they're very, very good steel on that Husqvarna bar. So I don't think you have any trouble with flex on it. Hey, I had a question came through from one of the viewers, William Eckhorn, and he asked if we'd put together a video, and I'm still gonna work on that some, but I wanted to kind of ask y'all a little bit, if what spare parts that you keep in your saw kits. So I know with the Forest Service, and some of it we put together over the years with different things, series of spare parts to have to take to the woods. So it's what's on your list? I'd like to know. Let's see. Have you used Oregon versus VersaCut bar? No, I've used the Pro Match most of the time. The VersaCut, I'm not familiar with the term. Is that's on one of the smaller bars, is it not, Bruce? But the lightweight, I had back when they were first coming out with it. I had some test bars on them, but I didn't. I haven't really had any of the others. I used the Pro Match most of the time. Hi, Rowan. How are you doing? Things are going good here in Lawrenceville, Georgia tonight. Glad to be fairly close. We're only about 2 hours from home here, so it's good to be training a little bit closer to home for one time. One more day. We got one more class at 12 tomorrow, and then we head home for the weekend, and we head over to Alabama next week. We're going to be working with I think it's Sandy Power out of Rainsville, Alabama. We're going to be there 5 days next week, doing a 3-day program and then an on the lines training. So I'll tell you, my brain is about fried tonight. I've got all kinds of trying to think of stuff here, but that's Sand Mountain EMC next week. So Laura says that that North Park Lodge just looks like it's straight north of Pittsburgh, so it's not over around the Philadelphia area. So it's up in the rolling hills there a little bit. Yeah, Aaron, sprockets, spark plugs, clutch springs. Those are good things to have in the kit, that's for sure. Bar nuts, definitely. Yeah, it's nice on the newer saws, the captive nuts. It's not quite as important to have those things, but no doubt something could still strip out or go wrong. But especially on the saws before the captive nuts, you need those. And I was gonna mention, and I'm gonna put this together a little bit on the video. I think it was kind of interesting. I don't know if y'all ever heard the story on them or not, or how they're actually done. But I've had the opportunity to go and spend some time, at the Oregon plants. And hey, Nick, how are you? Hope things are getting better down your way, up your way. Things go much better. Great. Glad to hear your son's doing good. So super duper. Thanks for joining in. Now, what I was gonna say, I had some time to spend with the Oregon plant several years ago, and one of the things they were showing me, and people don't understand, like the sprocket systems, which they build the sprockets for several manufacturers over the years, and basically it's about a 16-step process, and people don't understand it. I'm going to try to get everything listed out for the video when I get it put together. But more or less, they have looks like model car parts. You know how you'd take the model cars apart, put it together. It's on plastic, kind of a Christmas tree looking thing, or a tree looking structure. and there's I think something like I think there's 100 or 144 something like that on that spiral. And what they do is then they dip it into this special ceramic material, and they dip it, I don't know how many times, like 10 times, 15 times, or something like that. And what it does is it coats those, and it's just like little plastic sprockets, rim sprockets anyway. And they do the others, spur sprockets that way too. But they take in, it's neat. I have some of them I think in my shop, but they're just nylon or plastic, and they're on this tree that you can pull them apart or whatever. But they have them all in that tree. It's kind of a cone shape. They dip it and dip it, let it harden, and then that completely encompasses the plastic parts, and that's the form of the mold. Then they take and they heat that up, and more or less the plastic nylon drips out, and so it leaves mold cavities. And then they take molten steel, so powdered, and they heat it up till it's liquid, and then pour it into the mold, and then they take and let that cool, and then they take and they break that off, and they recycle it somehow. But all the little nylon plastic sprockets that look like a real sprocket, that's all out of there. And so then when the molten steel hardens, that everything just falls apart when they break the mold off of it. Then they take and they had two ladies there that stacked all of those on these trays, and then they would take and put them into heat treat. And that's something that's important when you start looking at sprocket maintenance, is how much wear can it have. And they say it's around 28 thousandths of an inch of hardening, because you can't harden that sprocket all the way to the core, or it'd be real brittle like glass. You know, if you hammered it with a chain going around it, it would actually bust. So they harden the outside, say 28 thousandths, so it remains flexible somewhat, but then you got a hard surface that the chain doesn't beat. Well, that's about the thickness of your thumbnail, I always tell people. And when you get that wear down below that 28 thousandths, then more or less you're into soft metal. So if you check it this morning and you got that kind of wear, and you go to work out cutting, you might get through a half a quart of wood, and then all of a sudden it starts rattling like crazy and starts beating up your chain, and could even break a sprocket. And then the same thing when you get into a spur or star type sprocket, is you'll see them wear the groove down into them, and more or less it can go slap to the crankshaft very quick if you don't think about replacing it as it gets into that soft centered metal. And so that's very important to kind of keep a watch on how much wear that surface has on it. And another story, we were out, and I guess about every 3 or 4 years, I had the opportunity to go out and work with Oregon's marketing and technical staff. And we were out in, I think, Forest Grove, Oregon, and we were felling some power poles up on the hill, and it was really windy. So we were doing some maintenance stuff, and they had a new bar and sprocket manager, and we were going down through and kind of looking at maintenance on the chains, mounting it all back. And I asked about, because Oregon had a little tool that you could use to check the wear on the sprockets, and I think it was a 28 thousandths gauge that you could check the wear on a star sprocket. And we were talking about that, and he said, "No, I don't think, I haven't seen that." And he said, "I don't think I've got those." But then a few minutes later, he said, and he was a bicycle rider, and he said, we could put a witness mark on there just like on a bicycle tire. And I said, "What do you mean?" "Well, the bicycle tires, they got a little rib of rubber in between, and when your bicycle tire gets wore down to that particular height, then it's time to replace your tire before it blows out." And I said, "Yeah, that could work." And it wasn't just probably 30, 45 days. He sent me some of them, and And the new sprockets that Oregon has a witness mark on it. If you look at it, it's a little bitty line on the floating rim sprockets. It's a little line that goes across there, and so when that line's gone, it's worn in about 20 thousandths of an inch. It's starting to be time to replace that sprocket. So it's pretty cool. So I'm going to try to put some of that stuff in kind of a video form, kind of be a little training class, because a lot of people have trouble with the sprockets. And I've told a story before about a guy had taken and got a new bar and chain, but the shop didn't change out his sprocket, and when they mounted the bar, it was kind of up on the side of it was a spur type sprocket, kind of up on the side of the groove that was worn in there. And he put it in the wood, and the whole chain jumped down into that hole, into the wear in the sprocket, and it just came right off the bar. Luckily, it was in the wood at that point, wasn't too close to him. Let's see, B. Drake, how are you doing tonight? Said, saw an online article a few weeks ago when a cold snap storm went through Texas and trees exploded. They said the sap froze internally and broke the trees. Is this actually a thing? I didn't see any of that, but I don't know what type of tree it would be. But yeah, if it gets down, in the teens and single digits, I've run into to frozen wood pretty often. But I don't know if I've ever seen a sap freeze. But I guess it's according to what it is. I've cut Osage orange out there that has kind of a gummy sap to it. I guess it could maybe split if it got too hard. I don't know, but I don't know. I don't know how far it would explode. But I guess you're talking about it just cracks a seam or something. But frozen does expand stuff. I know the trees that we're cutting here. It's been kind of chilly, but not real cold. It's been down to 20s the past couple weeks here. But it's, like I say, is at about 70 something today. And I mean, it is, it's really pumping pine sap right now. So that's something to think through. But let's see, so we got sprockets, spark plugs, clutch springs, bar nuts. How about anybody keep a extra starter rope, starter cord? I thought about that one too. We used to have those in the kits. I'm trying to, if you just got on, I'm trying to put together. One of the viewers had a question about the sprockets, and then also on, what kind of spare parts and things like that we need to have kind of on hand to go out to work with the saw. And so having those few things and maybe some different screws. One thing I've had, I guess, come off a couple times over the years is a grommet on the chain brake attachment on the starter side. Sometimes that goes. Hey Doug, how you doing? Hope you're holding Indiana up. I bet it's cold up there this week. I saw the latest videos you did though. It looks like springtime up there too, so not too bad. Needle bearing for sprocket. Is that what you're talking about, Aaron? That's probably a pretty good extra spare part to have. But I assume most people kind of keep a spare chain or something. One thing I found, it's always a good tip, especially some of the inboard clutch saws, is to be able to carry an extra bar and chain. So if you happen to get stuck, you don't necessarily have to have another saw. You can be able to get the bar and chain off the stuck situation, put another bar and chain on, be able to get yourself out. So that's always good instead of having two power heads. But it gives you kind of a spare saw system too. Yeah, the drive drum needle bearing, Aaron. I think that's a pretty good one to have on there in the kit. I have a pouch on my kind of tool. I got a kind of a fanny pack thing I carry in the woods a lot of times, doing a training when we're away from vehicles. Get up in West Virginia or something like that, and you're halfway up a mountain. So I have to have a little pack to carry up there to do some of the training stuff, and it keeps some spare parts in there and files and tools. Yeah, you might be right, B. Drake. It might be something, it's loading and splitting them over. I don't know. You'd have to kind of find out what they're talking about when they say exploded. But I mean, you can see some separation sometimes on the trees, but I don't know that it's really from freezing sap or not. But some seams are formed sometimes. But I'd wonder if you're talking about something's folded over or something with snow load and ends up splitting out or something. Need a little more detail on that one, I guess. But I haven't heard anything about Texas trees exploding, so somebody else might know something about it. Let's see, B. Drake. Saw a kit once where you could put a short serpentine belt on a chainsaw so you could spin your alternator and charge your dead truck battery. I've seen that set up on dynos with a belt system on it. But I don't know. You have to hold on to that thing pretty tight. There's some kind of rig that would mount somewhere to turn your alternator over. But yeah, that could work. Let's see, Doug, those new plastic chain containers that came out seem like a good idea for out in the field. Also, a small container with miscellaneous screws, nuts, bolts, if had felling spikes fall off, etc. Yeah, I've had that happen. Yeah, you're talking about the small plastic squares. I've seen those, and that's what we used to have. The Forest Service kits were set up that way, and back years ago at Steel, we had them in a field kit that was in a plastic container like that. I wish I had some of those. It had the old Steel logo on them. It looked really cool. And those you could, you had it had like 4 or 5 little compartments on it. So you had some of the Torx head bolts, and well, at that time it was just flathead screws, but you put the screws in there in the spark plug area. You could coil up a starter rope and put in there, and that kept everything in a neat location. But we had one. Seemed like we had one at McCulloch too. So but I don't remember. It was kind of a long one too, because you could put files in there on it too. But it was plastic and opened up like a clamshell type thing. It's pretty cool to have. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Drake. As far as on the chainsaw spins the alternator, so that would charge your battery back up should it be dead. That's a good thing to have way out in the woods, that's for sure. But I just wondered how do I haven't seen that particular apparatus, so but it'd have to have some kind of a clamp system, I would think, for the saw, or either something retracts for um, the belt to go on to hold it, or either that thing would be hard to hold on to, I would think, trying to keep the belt on the pulley and without some kind of bolt down assembly or something. I mean, I guess it could pull tight around the pulley a little bit, but it could be interesting. But yeah, that'd be a cool thing. That's something I was seeing or talking to one of the power companies a couple weeks ago. They were kind of converting over to battery powered units, and most of it was some type of a saw they had using out of the bucket, a pruning attachment and stuff, and a lopping thing, and it was battery powered, and they've set up charging systems on the trucks, and I guess there's two or three manufacturers of them. One of the guys said, I'm trying to find some information on that. That would make some good information to get out there, because more and more people are going to the battery saws. And I was talking to them over the weekend, and supposedly there are some battery saws now that are about to come to market that are up in the 70 cc saw power range, and so I'm anxious to see how they do the batteries and what type of time on that. I was reading up. I don't know if y'all have saw, but Steel has introduced the MSA 300. I saw a bunch of stuff in Europe on it, and that's a battery unit. I think it's got full profile 325 chain on it. It's got a 20-inch bar, pretty good size, regular 3003 bar, look like, and 45-minute runtime on the battery. Considered to be I guess they're going to call it a wood boss or something like that, the way it looked from the presentation materials over there. There's a couple YouTube things on it. But I'm anxious to see when they get the saws coming out with the full profile 3/8 on the battery units, like we used to have on the corded power saws, electric saws. So the new Echo climbing saw. What number is that, Doug? What is that gonna be? Is that gas or battery? Um, Wayne Rowan says, we have noticed the batteries don't last too long in the cold weather we've been having. Now, there's definitely some situations with temperatures on the batteries that can run into it. Have you heard real short times, or it's just cutting down a small percentage, or what? So Aaron, you got a Echo 2511T. That one's been out for 2 or 3 years, hasn't it? That's not a new one, is it? I don't keep up all that much on the climbing saws. I stay on the ground too much, but Echo's got some good equipment. DCS 2500T battery powered. Oh, okay. I'll have to look that up. Have you done a video on it yet, Doug? Or you got one? $50 volt. So that'd be a pretty powerful one. I think they were talking about the if I remember correctly, that 300 is like 85 volts or something like that. I don't know. So they're gonna have to get up some voltage to start matching these higher horsepower gas units. So, Aaron, you say it's the lightest? Oh, yeah, the lightest gas-powered saw. Yeah, I thought the 2511 had been out there for a little bit. So that's a gas unit. And about 20% cut on cutting time. Oh, that's the battery. The battery's dropping 20%. Gosh. So most of those are about 35 minutes, something like that on battery runtime. So that's cutting down 6 minutes, 8 minutes off of it. And that 35 minutes, it's about the same. Most of them kind of regulate about the same as a tank of fuel. And so, but if it's cutting down 20%, that's a good bit of time off. It's hard for batteries to produce the power with it being really, really cold, but a lot of the new ones, have what I understand, have kind of a cycle that they go through. So you kind of have to keep them kind of in a warmed area a little bit. But I don't know. You just have to have a couple more batteries, I guess. Going back, how many of y'all use floating rim sprockets instead of spur type? How many change over from star or spur sprockets on the saws if you get one with it to a floating rim? And I've seen a lot of the smaller saws coming out that they've pretty much gone back to star or spur type sprockets in many cases. Definitely floating rim has some advantages, but they do tend to be a little bit higher in price for a whole combination. But you can replace just the rims, if you don't have the drum wear. And then the other thing is you can be able to change the tooth size a lot easier. And there's quite a bit, going from a 7 to an 8 tooth sprocket on chain speed, that's for sure. We used to set up quite a lot, and even we played with some 9 tooth on the larger saws, 56 mags and stuff like that back years ago. Yeah, that's what I thought. A lot of the smaller climbing saws and stuff now they they don't put any of the floating rims on there. They're all spur sprockets, which is nothing super bad about that, but definitely if your chain jumps, you're going to get it kind of chewed up a little bit versus the floating rim. John, I don't know. John Durant, good to see you. I don't know how all this mess is going to come out. You know, there's a lot of distribution situations right now that's kind of tough around the country, so it's definitely going to affect some things in the long run. Hopefully they all come to their senses pretty quick. Do rim sprockets wear better? Aaron, I think so. I think that the rim sprockets offer a little bit longer life than the star type sprockets. A little bit less vibration. It gives you the ability to change ratios. Chain tends to ride a little closer to the bars, so the bar tails. So it seems to me it works a little more efficiently. Let's see, gain RPM, lose torque with bigger sprockets. Yeah, that is true to some extent, but then it's you know, you get into a lot of times you know, in production cuts to where there's quite a bit of difference between the 7 and the 8. We used to run 8-tooth on most all at that time 064s, 56s on steels, and then we ran on the 576 on the Husqvarnas, the most all of the larger units we would run the 8-tooth on it, and plus I guess a lot of times we were running semi-skip chain, and there was quite a bit of cutting speed difference on that, and it also tended to track a little better into the bar tails on the larger bar pads. But chain speed with good sharp chain, though, Doug, is quite an increase. But most of our stuff, we never really used the spikes much. Didn't apply a lot of torque pressure, so we let the chain speed do a lot of the cutting and just hold back on the saw just a little bit and let it go down through it. Didn't do a whole lot of walking through it, but you know, you get into longer bar situations and stuff, you've got to apply some torque. There's no doubt about it. So yeah. Yeah, then they made real saws. So we get into, you know, with the Union Camp, Scott Paper Company down south, and working the different areas, like along Tom Bigby and stuff. They were taking out pretty big poplars and pines, and it would make a huge difference when, especially running 404 chain, 300, I think it's 3002 bar pads on the big steels and stuff, and we had the 48, what we call the Southern Supers we built up. We put some of the first 8-2 sprockets, 404 semi-skip chain, and also the changed everything over to Torx head screws, and that was some of the first units we had with the Torx heads we put in there. And guy, he's passed away now, but Jim Stevens, he was service manager up at Mid-Atlantic Steel, and he's the one that came up with the concepts with the Torx head screws, and it pretty much is on the entire line now. So that was years ago. You getting down now? Come here. Go that way. Go. So let him out just a second. Go on now. Go. John Durant. Does anyone remember the Husky 242 XPs from the mid 80s? Yeah. They were high revving screamers. Yeah, that was a 15,300, I believe, on that particular saw. It was a high speed delimbing saw. It would move on through a little bit. Very well balanced too. Nate Olmstead, good to have you. The new steel chain, last I was told just a few weeks ago, looks like they're shooting for March date, but the shipments, I haven't got any confirmation from my contacts as far as it coming out. It's all over Europe, and from what I understand, it hasn't made Australia yet, but they've definitely got it out in Europe, and haven't heard of anything in Canada yet. I'm hoping that it's going to start to be available to dealers next month, by the end of the month anyway. But I don't know. Shipping stuff is kind of all screwed up. I know I was talking to them on the 592 XPs over the weekend, and some of the areas they were already shipping them to dealers, and then some of the guys haven't been able to find any yet. So it's all changed around all over the place. But I've got that new one that I did a little video on at 84 to go on my 24 inch, and I've got it, but I don't have a new file yet. They sent me a handle, but I didn't get another couple files yet. So I'm hoping I get some files before too long. The one that I've got's about wore out. But that's going to be, I think, a good product coming out. Doug, if you're still on, I was going to say that that firewood splitting thing I was watching, you had some really good guys come back on that deal. That really sparked up your community there just a little bit. Looked like that was really neat. I was watching through several of them yesterday, I guess it was, and that's quite interesting. Good little thing you thought of there. Nate Olmstead, where are you located? If you're still on. Let's see, Wayne Rowan, Tim, how hard is it to convert a full chisel round ground chain to the Hexagrind? Wayne, if you've got one of the a sharp hexa file, it takes very little to change it over, especially if you start with a new chain to where you don't have any of the gullet area rounded out. The key there, if you look at the video that I just did over the weekend with the close-up pictures, you can see that what they're doing is they're grinding that, and the side of the side plate is straight down to the gullet area, and so that file sits down on the flat. So if you take a new chain and it goes between the depth gauge and the point, okay, when you file through, I mean it just cuts that side V back into the cutter, and it goes in very quickly. And I think it's gonna add some life to the chain, because when you round file, you got to kind of hold it up or down, going to the gullet or up to the chisel angle. And so as you go through there, as you get back on the chain, you really start taking out quite a lot. And this hexa is going to keep it from changing that side plate position. So it's I think you get a few more sharpenings out of the side plate also. Way it looks to me. Burlington, Michigan. I've been up there years ago. That's great, Nate. Appreciate you dropping in tonight. Let's see, 1000-yard 308 GBA. That's hey Tim, hope all is well. I'm still playing with the old Max. Indiana weather kicking my butt. Need waders to cut wood. Yeah, wet one time and snowy the next, huh? But tell you what, the old McCullochs are hard to beat. I still run into guys every once in a while looking for old 101s to go on go-karts, I think those things are selling for quite a lot of money, and still the old saws won't quit. They just keep going. I remember when I first started with the Forest Service, one of the doing training, they had up at Parsons, West Virginia, they had, it's really the only, it's, they call it $1 Million Mile. It's really only profit center for the Forest Service, and they had been using 700 McCullochs for years, because the mechanic there, or the supervisor there, he kept them up in the shop, and they'd hone them out, put a new set of rings, and go right back to it. And old steel sleeve units. But they finally switched them over because of safety features and stuff. But they ran those McCullochs for years and years and years. That was a tough unit. But I just got in. I did a lot of repairs on McCullochs at my shop, but I got into the later models, when I got into the distribution of them and stuff. But it wasn't long after that when they finally kind of dried up in the United States as far as the new stuff. But the old ones are still out there going. Let's see, John, will I be able to hexafile my 3/8 low profile on my top handle saws? Right now, I don't think they're going to have but the 13/64 size, from what I understand, but I may be wrong. They may come out with a smaller version on the file, but low profile is not going to work. I did have some, just using the 13/64s, I did have some full profile 325 that once you filed it back just a little bit so the file would go between the depth gauge and the point, it did a good job on the side plate on it. So I got to playing with that a little bit. But the low profile 325, it won't fit it. It's just too low on the side of the cutting surface on the file. So same thing on low profile 3/8. It's not going to work on that. But I'm thinking that this is going to be something that they're going to put out 2 or 3 different sizes on eventually. They just got to get it out in the market first and kind of see what's going to happen. but I think it's going to be good. Yeah, the Pro Max 700 is a tough one. Ran a lot of the 850s and the 700s over the years. Let's see, I had a cart with a two 101s on it. Yeah, those things would scream, boy. And I guess it seems like, if I remember correctly, you could turn them any direction that you wanted to just by remounting the ignition on it. And so you had the first ones had like a left set of points and a right set of points or something on it. And the timing and stuff was pretty much top dead center. But it was just the later ones, they had some electronic conversions and stuff. But those things would flat out fly. I talked to somebody, I can't remember where it was, but they were saying if you got a 101 that you located with very little time on it for go-kart application, you'd probably pay $3,000 for it. So I don't know, but anyway, yep. That's pretty cool. I was gonna say uh, something else. I had a thought here a little minute ago, but I'll think of it again here in a minute. But it was looking at, oh yeah, I this afternoon, or yesterday afternoon, excuse me, I put together a podcast, and if y'all hadn't checked it out, my podcast series, Along the Forest Apps Road, it's on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and Spotify, and a lot of it is just the audio off of some of my YouTube videos, but a lot of them are also new interviews and stuff like that. That's just audio, and some of it's kind of interesting. Yesterday I put together one with Pete Duncan, and Pete Duncan is the chainsaw manager, national chainsaw manager for the U.S. Forest Service, and he's I've had a lot of questions about different things as far as being training certified for trail work and stuff like that. And so I worked with Pete over the years, and so we did a little podcast yesterday, and it'll be coming out this weekend probably, about how the Forest Service is doing on the training, and they're fixing to get geared up for the spring, and then also there's going to be a good bit of change coming up with the Thinking Sawyer, and it's revamping the wildfire S212 and that kind of thing into a little bit more elaborate training program. So it's pretty cool. So he's given all the updates on that. So if you haven't subscribed to that, do so. And I may get a little bit of the audio and put onto a YouTube video, but most likely it'll all stay on my podcast channel. So, but you might want to check that out. It's kind of interesting. But Pete has been around with the Forest Service and chainsaws. I mean, basically he's responsible for all of the U.S. Forest Service chainsaw training for wildfire and land management. And so it's quite interesting listening to him go down through all that stuff yesterday. So it's out for him reviewing right now, and then I'll probably get it up on Anchor and the other podcasts coming up over the weekend. But they run a lot of saws and have had saws over the years. A couple things coming up. If you haven't seen it already, I've got a storm sawing workshop coming up May the 10th, 11th, and 12th, and still got a few seats left. That's going to be in Asheville, North Carolina. So if you've got any contacts in the east, we've got the storm sawing workshop. There's information on our website at www.forestapps.com, and you can look on there and see what all is involved on it. But it's a workshop that we've done at Berry College in Rome past 12 years, and I was contacted by the Biltmore Estates. I've done some training there over the years, and they contacted me, said if I ever wanted to put something on a little bit farther north, they wanted to host it. So Bill there, got in touch with him, and we got it set up for May 10th, 11th, and 12th. And so it covers a lot of chainsaw maintenance and planning processes. We'll be felling some trees and looking at some different storm situations also. So if you are interested in that or know somebody that might be, especially in disaster relief groups and those types of things. But it's good for firewood or logging or tree care or just about anything as far as that goes. And it's kind of in a train-to-trainer format so that we make sure that everyone that gets there and leaves understands enough about everything to be able to explain it. So that's how we do the trainings. And then other than that, we've got a full schedule going on next probably next 6 months. We're booked pretty solid, so I'll be putting up some different videos and different things. So hopefully I appreciate all of y'all dropping by, and we're going to try to keep these Thursday night live programs going, so hopefully that builds up. And any questions, and if you get time to kind of jot down a little bit about what you put in your saw kit as far as spare parts and stuff, I'd like to see if there's anything new that people haven't shared with me before. I want to get that in a video coming up, and also a little bit on that Sprocket system, so we're going to do that. But if there's no other questions, I'm going to kind of sign off tonight. Got early morning back out in the woods tomorrow, and appreciate everybody dropping by, and very interesting talking to everybody from around, and hopefully you pick up some things with communications on some of these folks. So thank you very much, and I wish y'all good sawing. Be careful out there, and we'll talk to you a few days.